Joining me now online, hold on here, I got to, is State Senator Mike Nofs. Good morning, Senator Nofs. How are you? Oh, well, maybe I should.
Fine.
I just didn't have your mic turned down right there. You're doing fine, I heard. I appreciate you taking some time out. It's my understanding you're currently on your way to go into session at around 10 o'clock. Is that true?
That's correct.
Mike is my state senator. You serve Calhoun. What other counties you serve?
All of Calhoun, all of Berry, and all of Ionia. I go clear up the building.
Appreciate your time coming on air. Mike is the chair of the Senate Energy and Technology Committee. As I said, the Michigan Comprehensive Energy Bill plans have been discussed in his committee. More testimony will be on it tomorrow, and possibly a vote, if not a vote, on Thursday, and then, if passed, onto the full House on next week, correct? I mean, full Senate next week.
Yeah, Tuesday, hopefully. Yep.
Now, I understand that Michigan's current energy plan hasn't been updated since 2008, and back then you were a member of the House of Representatives and a key architect in HB 5524, which happened to be one of the three bills that the energy package dealing with the regulation in gas and electric utilities. What do these new bills, Senator Nofs, SB 437, which you sponsored, and SB 438, which State Senator John Prost sponsored, what do they entail?
Well, what they really do, Senate Bill 437 directly addresses a key weakness in the current energy policy that undermines reliability in Michigan. So this bill would require any electric provider serving Michigan customers to be fully accountable for supplying their electric generating capacity that their customers rely on. And today that's not exactly happening. And the federal government obviously expects the accountability from Michigan and each state. And the current law allows one category of providers, which is the choice or deregulated retail energy marketers, to sidestep that responsibility. And this bill would firm plans up to support the electric capacity for those retail customers and the reliability of electric supply for all Michigan customers, which they put at risk.
So this is this an update to the 2008 bills?
Actually, it's really a pretty big rewrite. It keeps a lot of it what we did back in 2008. There are a lot of significant changes, like it gets rid of the mandates for renewables, gets rid of the mandates for energy waste reduction programs. But what it does do, because we're shutting down so many plants, we're shutting down, we did just last month, shut down 10 coal plants here in Michigan. And over the next 15 years, Michigan will retire about 60% of our coal-fired generation that supplies our energy today, which accounts for about 30% of our total generation today. And so with that, it's a one opportunity once every 50 to 100 years that we're going to change what supplies our energy to us. And so we came up with what we call the Integrated Resource Plan, which back in 2008, we, the legislature, decided what we'd use to generate energy. And this new plan says all the above is available, and we'll consider anything and everything that is cost-effective, it's reliable, affordable, and clean. And that's the process in which we'll put in place that the utilities will lay out for us every 5, 10, and 15 years after this bill's passed. They'll have to say what they need as they shut down these plants, what they're going to replace it with, and then they'll take it to the Public Service Commission, where everybody else will be able to be interveners and to be able to say, no, we think you should do this, we think you should do that. I can do this cheaper with my plant. I can build a wind farm. I can build a solar farm. I can do more energy waste reduction. I can do hydro. I can do biomass to produce the energy. And so they all get to articulate that. It's all open to the public. It's all in a contested case in front of the Public Service Commission. And then the Public Service Commission determines what's the best mix going forward and what the costs are going to be. And then the utilities have to go out and do an RFP process or competitive bidding for everything that they're going to do. And then they have to go back to the commission once they get those final numbers and get the blessing of the commission to go forward at those prices, so we'll know exactly what the plan costs for the next 3 to 5 years.
Now, you said that, if I heard you right, these bills get rid of the mandates. Is that doable via the federal government?
Yeah, it is right now because the federal government in what they call the Clean Power Plan, the federal government is trying to put on all states. A lot of states like Michigan went and fought that in court, and the court has put a stay in there. And so the courts are going to decide whether that is an allowable plan that you can force on the states sometime in September or October. And so right now they don't have the ability to stop us from doing that and or mandating that we do certain other things. And so we're going in with this plan saying all of the above can be considered no matter what it is with cost overruns. It just has to be cost effective and reliable to be considered.
So in these bills, if they were to pass as currently being written, says there's not going to be any mandates, even though you're moving towards you want that you're not mandating it renewable.
Right.
Could the federal government come in and change that a year from now?
They can try to. And if they do, then obviously we'll have the ability to go ahead and change our plan that we have laid out for the next 5 years that will be presented. But right now we have a mandate of renewable portfolio standard at 10% by 2015. That was in the 2008 law. That goes away immediately as this bill, if it gets passed. Then we have the other mandate.
Well, if I may, Senator Nofs, online with me, State Senator Mike Nofs, we're talking about the energy bans currently being reviewed or discussed in the Senate. We hit that target, right? That 10%?
We did.
Okay.
But what we do with this new bill is what we say is, as the utilities make their presentation to the commission, they have to show what they're going to do with renewables. Doesn't say they have to do it, but they have to show that they looked at it. They have to show they looked at energy waste reductions. And if they're cost effective, they should consider it as part of their diversified portfolio. But they have to be cost effective with anything else to be able to produce our affordable, reliable, and cheap energy that going forward. And so there's no mandate, but what we have in this bill is what they call a blended goal. And the goal is not a mandate. It's not enforceable. It only happens if everything is consistent and the utilities want to go forward. They can then work towards the goal of 35% by 2025 and 35% of renewables and energy waste reductions. And we count everything that we did back to 2008, which the federal government doesn't allow us to do, but we're doing here in the state of Michigan for that blended goal. And it's only a goal. It's not a mandate. So the charge people have on their bills today for the energy optimization program will go away in 4 years. We got to phase it out, but it'll be gone in 4 years, and that mandate and that reduction in your bill will take place. My bill gets passed. You
spoke about energy waste reduction. What do you mean by that?
That means that, you can do, a real easy example is you change the light bulbs. You go to LED light bulbs instead of incandescent light bulbs. They use approximately 2/3 less energy to light your house, and they actually, in my house, I've used them. They actually produce a little more brightness than the incandescent bulb does. And they're getting to be cost-effective now. They used to be too expensive, but now, and they last a lifetime, supposedly. We'll see if that happens, but that's what they claim, the manufacturers of it. And they use, like I said, 2/3 less energy. So that's an energy waste reduction, even though you still are able to use and see it at night when you turn your lights on. You'd be able to see in your house. And there are other things like that, whether it be more energy efficiency appliances, more energy efficiency furnaces, insulation. There's a lot of different things that are available, that are coming available, that could be considered towards working towards that goal. But again, they have to be cost effective, so they can't be outrageous in price. Otherwise, we won't go forward and utilize it.
Well, how does the state know who? How does the state know who's doing this?
What they do is they measure utilities measure how much they use, and they keep track of how much every customer uses, basically, and they see a reduction, then they'll count that towards, and especially if they've gone in and did an audit of the house and or business, they can forecast how much they would be saving on that person's energy bill and being able to reduce it by doing certain things. And then the customer would have to decide to go ahead and do that. Some of it will be available through the utilities because, again, they'll get some incentives if they do that, again, so it's not too cost-effective for us. That'll be considered. And if it's cost-effective with the incentive, they'll be able to go forward and help everybody get their energy bills down, because what you're doing is you're asking the utility to not produce more of its product. Therefore, it would lose money, and they're in business to make money. So you got to compensate them and compensate them and the customer, and they benefit in this blended offset of their energy bills and energy consumption.
How would we compensate the energy companies?
Well, what you do is we give them, if they do more than 1% a year, they would get so much in a return because, again, you're asking a company not to do its business. Sort of like that's paying farmers not to farm.
Right.
So you're going to pay the utilities not to sell as much energy and reduce our energy consumption, which actually means we don't have to build more power plants. So therefore, all of us save more money if we're effective at doing that. And a lot of the analysis have been done on energy waste programs that for every dollar you invest, you save $4. I don't know if I'm a firm believer of that number, but I've seen it enough that I think there is a better than 2-to-1 return on your investment.
So is that money given to them straight out of the general fund, or is that money that is given to them via tax credits?
It won't be a tax credit either. It'll be actually in your energy bill. That cost that they get for their rate of return would go up, showing that they got that incentive done, which ultimately we give them a little bit, but we save a lot of money because they don't have to go ahead and produce that energy and build another power plant. So they save money, we save money, and yet they still get compensated.
So it's coming from the end user, you're saying?
Yes.
I got you. You talked about the Public Service Commission, and I wanted to ask you what the goal of that commission is right after. I got to go to a quick break. Online with me is State Senator Mike Nofs from the 19th District, and we're discussing the energy plans that are, I think they've been in writing, been working on them since 2014, that are coming to fruition now and ready almost for a vote this week in his committee. He's the chair of the Energy and Technology Committee, and then on to the full Senate after that. So stay tuned. We'll come back with more from State Senator Mike Nofs. You're listening to Live with Renk. You're listening to Live with Renk, and I appreciate that very, very much. On air with me is State Senator Mike Nofs. And we're talking about the Michigan Comprehensive Energy Plans, SB 437 and 438, the bills that are currently in the committee that he chairs, the Senate Energy and Technology Committee. I understand from speaking with you, Senator Nofs, that you started working on the package back in 2014. Is it that comprehensive? It takes that long?
It really, well, I'm really big on process and openness, and so I started back with a 37-member work group that, in fact, had every discipline in the energy field, whether it be customers, whether it be energy suppliers, whether it be renewable, environmental people, just a whole diverse group, and sat down and said, what do we want our next energy policy to look like? And so we met and took it around the state and talked to a bunch of individuals and came up with a plan. And then after that, we started the process of writing the legislation. And then last September, we held our first series of meetings, had over 100 hours of testimony, thousands of pages of testimony submitted, a lot of discussion going on. And we're now back after we did that, we found what people thought we could make the package better. So we went back to the work plan and worked on it again. And then we came back just recently, and today we're coming out with a final bill that will be voted on tomorrow, probably out of committee after we've heard from a certain amount of people again. And, yeah, I'm really big on process, and so I want to give everybody the opportunity from all over the state, around the state, to be able to chime in and say what they think we should and shouldn't do. And so it took us a little while, but I think because of it, and it is very complex, you actually educate people in understanding what we're trying to accomplish here. And so I think we've done a pretty good job. So no one can say we have rushed this thing through.
Is there bipartisan support?
I don't know yet. I got to talk to the Democrats today with the final version coming out to see. They always hold their cards close to their vest until the very last second, and then they'll let you know. And I hope that they are. We've done a lot of things. They want some more mandates, though. To be honest with you, I could get them all on board. Mm-hmm. If I was told if I had some mandates left in there and kept those mandates going, expanded them, I could get a lot of the Democrats in the House and a lot of them in the Senate. And I'm just not going to do mandates because I think we should have an all-of-the-above approach and not have the legislature picking winners and losers.
Now, I asked you before the break, you had mentioned several times in the last segment the Public Service Commission. For those out there who may not know what that is, can you explain what that is and what their goal is, please?
They are the regulators for the state of Michigan, the energy produced by the investor-owned utilities. So the investors do own the utilities, but in order to get price increases, they have to go to these regulators called commissioners, and there's 3 of them. The governor appoints them. He doesn't get to appoint all of them. They have staggered 6-year terms. So as you know, we have term limits in Michigan. The governor can only serve 8, so the governor doesn't usually get to appoint all of them. And so one has to be a Democrat, one has to be a Republican, and one has to be an independent. And they serve at the pleasure of the residents and customers of the utilities to make sure that the utilities are doing everything properly, and they're also to ensure that every customer in Michigan will be able to continue to get reliable and affordable electric and natural gas service. And so the utilities have to go to them to get a price increase on anything they want to do.
Now, what is their goal? Well, can you again real quickly explain what they do?
They basically can have the utilities come in and or people coming in that want to make complaints about the utilities. They're like arbitrators.
Who pays them?
What's that?
Who pays them?
Oh, we do. We do through our electric bills. It's part of your bill. Part of that money that you pay pays for the commission to operate.
Okay.
And their salary.
And is their goal more reliability and a reliable energy grid, or cost, or what?
Yeah, the federal government takes care of the actual grid. It's called MISO. It's a regional one. The federal government has jurisdiction there. What the Public Service Commission has jurisdiction within the boundaries of the state of Michigan. So, yes, reliability is an important aspect that they require. And then also they are there to be the eyes and ears of the customers, which is basically mostly residential and small businesses. And they advocate on their behalf, and they're arbitrators on their behalf to make sure that what the utilities get is not outrageous and is reasonable. And they are experts, and they have a pretty big staff that are experts in that field. So when the utilities come and talk to them about this is happening or that is happening, they could go out and independently investigate that, see if that is true. And then if it is, they can make a determination of what the compensation would be realistically to pay for that service, that there's an increase in a request from a utility.
Online with me is State Senator Mike Nofs from the, I said 19th District earlier. It's the 9th State Senate District covering Barry, Calhoun, and Ionia counties. And we're talking about the energy bills for the state of Michigan in front of his committee. Come back for one last segment with Senator Nofs. He's got to go into session very soon. Appreciate you being on air with me, Senator Nofs, and holding on. You're listening to Live with Renk. We'll be right back after this with some more from State Senator Mike Nofs. Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Live with Renk program. Appreciate you tuning in. Online with me is State Senator Mike Nofs from Michigan's 9th State Senate District, encompassing all of Barry, Calhoun, and Ionia counties. Appreciate him coming on such short notice. He's going into a session very soon. He is chair of the Senate's Energy and Technology Committee and has 2 bills. His bill, he sponsored SB 437, and another bill, SB 438, sponsored by State Senator Post, discussing Michigan's next comprehensive energy plan. Once again, thank you, State Senator Mike Nofs, for staying online with us today. Appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
Does many people's concern is from what I'm hearing is, does this kill energy choice here in the state of Michigan, or what's in it about energy choice?
Well, here's what the deal is. You know, back in 2008, we had a Democrat Governor Granholm and a Democratic majority in the House. Obviously, I was in the minority then, but I was able to help and actually fought. The Republicans fought, and I led the charge basically to keep choice alive. Most states, 90% of states, are totally regulated markets. They don't have choice markets. We kept the 10% open just so that we could have that choice and be able to watch both markets under Michigan's positions to see which one and how they would operate. So some people claim, obviously, that this legislation will kill that market served by the retail energy marketers in Michigan, or choice people. Obviously, I believe that misrepresents the true intention of the policy. The bills actually preserve that supply option for those customers while taking steps to ensure all customers in Michigan and their energy providers meet its fair share of our state's reliability requirements. And so we even had some people have said this will kill it for schools because a lot of schools are on choice. It's going to cost teachers jobs. Anybody who knows me knows I've always fought for teachers and supported teachers in our schools. This will not do it. Actually, the guy that testified in front of us, Mr. Ray Tillman, said this plan will not kill choice. What it will do is it will raise their costs just like our costs are going to go up because of the reliability concerns and what the federal government requires of all of us in Michigan to have so much of our energy come from within Michigan because we're a peninsula state and we have limited transmission abilities to be able to transmit power into the state of Michigan. And so the federal government requires that in order to keep the lights on, if the grid goes out around us, around the state of Michigan, we're still able to keep our lights on and being able to operate. And so 90 to 95% of all the power used in Michigan has to come from within the zone. There's two zones in Michigan. One's the lower peninsula, one's the upper peninsula. But this will not kill choice. And what it does do is it makes everybody who's going to provide energy for their customers, they have to take care of that federal requirement, which is called a local clearing requirement. For the proportion of your load that you're serving, you have to have that available and demonstrate that you have it. So everybody's lights will come on when they turn the light switch on.
So this is something that I'm not really familiar with. Michigan is different in a way that it's a peninsula state that it's required because of that, and we're surrounded on three sides by water, that
right.
We must get 90% of our energy from within the state due to the fact that, as you said, it's harder to get transmission from other states into us? Yeah,
because we have a limited amount of transmission. Transmission is very expensive. We are a peninsula state, so and it's for the zone. We have two zones. So the UP is a little different because they're hooked into the Wisconsin transmission grid. And so they don't have as much transmission as they need up there either, but we got to look at that in the future. But in the lower half of Michigan, what the federal government does is takes all the energy we use for a whole year, they subtract all the transmission that we can take in, and then they say basically that's what you have left that you have to produce in Michigan. So if the grid goes out around us, we'll still be able to keep our lights on. And most states, the southern border, like Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, are 50% local clearing requirement. Ours is 90 to 95%. They set it every year.
So you mentioned that first of all, so choice is not killed because of why? I didn't really catch that.
No, choice isn't killed. It's actually, I'm the one who held right choice, and I made very public that I'm not going to kill choice. So, matter of fact, to even make it a little better, my original bill, when we came out with it, said once you leave the choice market and go back to the regulated market voluntarily, it's your choice, and you go back, you'd have to stay there. Now, that ultimately, someday, if the market would have turned upside down out there, that would have killed choice. So I said, no, we'll allow it so you go back out to choice or you come back to a regulated market. And so it is totally available to everyone, and they're able to go out there as soon as there's room in that 10%, and they could come and go as they please. The only requirement this bill does is says you, as an alternative energy supplier, the people that supply the energy for those choice customers, don't produce one electron. What they rely on is all the power our utilities and other power producers in Michigan, the co-ops and the munis, what they produce. Once they're done serving all their customers, you can't store energy, so those utilities and those other power producers put it out there in the market to sell it. It's already been paid for by its customers. So they sell it because you can't store energy, and they'll take whatever price they can get. That's what these marketers do. They come in, they don't produce anything, they grab our table scraps up after we're done eating, basically, and they grab what's left, they buy it, they raise the price on it a little bit, and they sell it to those choice customers, those 10% choice customers. But what's happening in Michigan, we already shut down 10 power plants, and in the next 10 to 15 years, we're shutting down another 15 power plants. That excess capacity they buy and they rely on after we've used the energy we needed because we paid for it, it's not going to be available. And just last month, what they have is an auction every year right now. Their price went from $3.50 a megawatt a day to $72 a megawatt per day, which was over a 2,000% increase. Now, we won't see that because our utilities and we pay for that. So we're not affected by the market. Those guys that are out there, because there's less energy available, their price went way up. And it will continue to do that as where they get their power from, which is basically utilities and these other power producers in Michigan, because it has to come from Michigan, the price will go way, way up. And then they voluntarily can come back to the regulated market to continue to get their energy if it gets real volatile out there. And that's what happened in 2008. Everybody came back. We had a 100% choice market from 2000 to 2008. 3% at the end were using the 100% choice market because the price was too high.
Well, that's interesting. I did not know. You learn something every day. I did not know that is where the energy that these choice companies are getting it from, our scraps. A, I did not know. And B, it sounds like due to the fact of all these, the federal government shutting down all these coal mines, essentially with their policies, that itself will kill the choice market.
Yeah, it will drive their price up. And then you get into reliability, because here's the problem, Renk. Because we, the utilities customers, we pay for all ours, and it's produced here locally. So we pay the total amount of cost to produce that electron. These guys don't produce an electron for their customers.
Right.
And what happens when that price, when the availability goes down, supply and demand, price goes up. The problem is these guys can build in Michigan to take care of their customers, but they won't. We had a gentleman from Constellation, he has half of the choice market customers. We asked him, would you ever build in Michigan to take care of your customers? He said, no, we'll leave before that happens because it's too expensive and we won't make any money.
Right. That's interesting. Now, you also mentioned about us possibly seeing higher rates. Where,
right,
with all the experts and the committee hearings and testimonies and boards and everything you've been on, where do we see that going? Well,
I think obviously due to what's going on in Washington and the push for all these regulations, whether it be, on some of these mercury rules and these clean water rules, everything that affects the production of electricity, all these requirements coming down drives the price up. You have to add stuff to your plants producing this energy to meet those standards, air quality permits, et cetera. And you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars when you have to do that. And you can do one of two things. You can make those adjustments to your plants, or you can pay for a new transmission line from someone else doing it out of state and bring that energy in. But that's very, very expensive also. And it takes a lot of money. And you and I both know people don't want those big towers on their property.
Right.
So
now,
how do you cite those things without eminent domain taking place? And that really riles people. As you remember, Joe Schwartz, when he was in the Senate here, tried to get a line coming up from Indiana through Battle Creek and almost got recalled for it. And people were able to stop it because they didn't want it in their backyard. And so it's very hard to cite those things. So that's an answer, but it's not a probable answer. It's very, very tough.
Do you know if the amount of when our power rates go up, is it mainly due to policy changes or supply and demand of like natural gas and what have you?
Well, obviously the fuel source is a part of the consideration. The other part is the requirements and the rules that change. The other part is because, what was really nice is these coal plants that we have are basically paid for because we built them 50 years ago, 60 years ago. We have some of the oldest fleet of all the fleets out there serving their states. And so we were going to have to, but they still have some like 10 or 15 years. A lot of these plants do, but they're shutting them down because, again, all the federal requirements coming down and the Clean Power Plan. And if it's not that Clean Power Plan, then it's the mercury standard, it's emission standards, air quality, it is clean water standards. All those things they have to abide by drive that cost up. And so natural gas is a cleaner form, and you can meet all those standards. And so they got to shut down these coal plants and start building natural gas plants and other things like renewables and energy waste reduction programs. But they have to have that backup, and so you have to have these baseload generation plants built. But you're taking out a new mortgage, and so our price is going to go up because we got to pay for these new plants.
I understand. Well, I appreciate you coming on, State Senator Mike Nofs, very much, and good luck with your plan.
Hey, thank you so much, and we'll have me back on, and we'll tell you how it went.
I would enjoy that. Appreciate that. You have a great day. Good luck. 269-441-9595 if you have any thoughts. Again, that was State Senator Mike Nofs from the 9th State Senate District, covering all of Berry, Calhoun, and Ionia counties. He is the chair of the committee Oh, sorry. Where is it here? The Energy and Technology Committee in the state of Michigan. They have more. They're going into session today to discuss this bill. In fact, I was told just about 10 o'clock their session starts. And more than likely, more testimony tomorrow will be heard, and then possibly a vote in the committee tomorrow or on Thursday. If it passes, then next week it'll go into the full Senate. And then we'll have Senator Nofs back on to see what the final product was. I learned something today. Did you know that about choice? I guess I never really thought about it, but where are these choice energy suppliers get it from? It's just unused energy here. Interesting.